So most of you, especially the teens, you guys know what Kids Cancer Care is. You guys know a lot about TLP, you know about our programs and stuff, but I'm going to do an overview of Kids Cancer Care, what the webinar series is all about, and just let some of the students and grads know a little bit more. So be patient. There is 3 pages of notes, so be patient with me, okay? And Megan can start recording now. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Nikki Lamarche. I'm the Outreach and Education Support Specialist at Kids Cancer Care. We're very excited to have you all on today. I'm going to quickly go over who we are as a foundation, what the webinar series is all about, and then I'm going to pass it over to Leanne Palachuk, and she's going to do some introductions to the speakers that she brought, as well as Kristen and Maeve. So today's webinar is post-secondary prep, so if you were thinking that it was called something else and you're in the wrong webinar, just let us know and slowly glide out. It's going to offer you a chance, the students going into post-secondary, to ask our guest speakers some questions about post-secondary. So our mission at Kids Cancer Care is to provide families affected by childhood cancer a way to survive and thrive in body, mind, and spirit. What that means to us within the education support pillar is to provide you with new knowledge, strategies, some current research, so you can thrive and become more wholesome as an individual. So we have an entire education support stream at Kids Cancer Care that is available to support children and teens diagnosed with cancer, their siblings, and also their parents. So we have a tutoring program to support the cancer patient or survivor, siblings, and alleviate some stress on parents by making sure that it's a free tutoring service. We also offer a scholarship program called Derek Windsor Memorial Scholarship to patients and survivors of childhood cancer to alleviate some financial stress so teens can pursue post-secondary education. We offer a program called Cancer in the Classroom to help kids get back into the classroom safely after treatment, and also help build awareness with their classmates and the whole school community about childhood cancer. And lastly, we have this webinar series to support families by providing speakers with expertise in certain areas to share their knowledge with all of you. So what's a webinar? Think of a webinar as a way to attend a conference without even leaving your home. Using your computer or telephone, you'll be able to hear a presentation like a conference call, and also see the presenter slide if they have some, while watching over an internet connection. Pretty amazing. People from across the world can even join a webinar. What is a Kids Cancer Care webinar? So our webinars are different. We only invite people and families within the Kids Cancer Care community to register, but we can bring in speakers from anywhere around the world. We make our webinar sessions small so that you, our families and volunteers, have the opportunity to ask questions. We want to make some webinar sessions interactive and some where you can just sit back and relax and listen, kind of like a podcast. Our webinar series at Kids Cancer Care will also be recorded and made available to you after the session on the Kids Cancer Care website. So there's no need for frantic note-taking. Our webinars at Kids Cancer Care take place in the spring and in the fall each year, so keep an eye out for emails as they approach, because you must register for them. Consider our webinar series a way of having professionals share their expertise with just our families. If you ever want to know more about a certain topic or have ideas on who would be great to share their expertise, just send me an email. So have questions that pop up or come to mind during this webinar, you will be able to ask questions. We want you to post your questions in the chat box as they come to your mind, or unmute yourself and ask a question. Leanne will then, Leanne is able to see what questions are being asked, and she can direct it to the appropriate speaker at the right time to not interrupt if someone's speaking. And then after the session, we will ask you for feedback at the end of the session through email. Please take the time to answer this survey that will come into your email inbox tomorrow. The answers you provide will give us great feedback to keep improving our sessions. So a quick Zoom overview. I'm sure a lot of you guys know Zoom right now, but just a quick little overview. We'll keep everyone muted. Please click unmute if you have a response to a question from one of the speakers. Feel free to keep your video on so we know that you're there. It is never easy talking to black screens. If you need a bathroom break, be sure to check if you are muted. Use the chat box for questions, and if the speakers don't get to all the questions, we will copy paste them into an email and then be sure to answer them by email. So thank you all for registering, and we hope you enjoy the webinar. I will pass the torch over to Leanne to introduce our guest today.
Hi, everybody. Firstly, Balin, did you have your hand up? Did you have a question before we start?
Yeah, should we just directly message you? Or should we just send it to everyone, and if someone else jumps in?
For everyone, because then we'll be able to copy paste the entire chat. So always for everyone, if you need to direct it to a certain person, just put their name in the front. So if you're like, oh, I have a Kines question, Kristen, how do you get in?
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so you can send your questions into the chat, and then if it's for a specific person after we do the introductions, just put their name in front. But yeah, so my name is Leanne. I'm in my 3rd year of kinesiology. I play soccer and I do volunteer, and I do a lot of extracurricular outside of school as well. So I've kind of learned over these last 3 years how to balance everything while trying to take care of myself, take some baths, eat chips every once in a while. I'm going to be taking my MCAT this summer and applying to med school next year. So once I do all that, and if you guys come back to another webinar, and if Nikki invites me, I can tell you guys how that goes. And yeah, so today, 2 people that are helping me present are Kristen and Maeve. If you guys just want to give a little wave. Yeah, those 2, they're awesome. And then, yeah, so I have Hannah here from Dino's rowing team and Brett from a cool engineering degree. So I'll let Hannah maybe introduce yourself first, and then Brett, if you want to go after.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm in my 2nd year at the University of Calgary, currently taking kinesiology and education. So I'm in a dual program, majoring in pedagogy and coaching. So basically just teaching. And I am also, it is my 2nd year on the Dino's rowing team. So like Leanne, I know how to balance my school life and my athletic life and everything else on top of it. So if you have any questions about that or getting on teams or anything like that, let me know and I can help you out there.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you have any questions about athletics, varsity sports, club sports within the school and how that all works, or even if you're just interested in it or how it works, yeah, just shoot Hannah a message in the chat. And yeah, Brett, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, as Leanne said, my name is Brett. I'm in my 4th year of energy engineering at the University of Calgary. Outside of school, I like to play hockey mainly, and then in the summer, golf. So I don't do many sports in the year because my program is a little heavy, so I kind of stick to that. But yeah, as Leanne said, my engineering is a little different. It's not as, straightforward as the other engineers. I'm not sure if Leanne wants me to talk about that now, or is that later?
Yeah, you can just quickly describe like how your degree is different from a typical engineering degree.
Okay, so yeah, for energy engineering, you have to go to a technical institute first. So I went to SAIT, and you have to take one of the approved diplomas there. So I took mechanical engineering technology. So after you're done there in your 3rd semester, you apply to U of C or other universities for a kind of a transfer program, and then you can continue on for around 2 to 3 years at university, and then you graduate with a degree and a diploma. So it's kind of 2 birds, 1 stone. So yeah, thanks, Leanne.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett. And I'm just going to, so we have a nurse that will be coming in at 7. Her name is Nicole Takeda. She's an RN at the Foothills Medical Center, super involved with KCC. I'm sure some of the teens know her. And yeah, she'll be coming in around 7. So if we forget to introduce her or anything, that's who like pops in. Okay, Kristen, you want to start with your intros now?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Kristen. My preferred pronouns are she and her. I recently graduated from the University of Calgary with a kinesiology degree. A little bit about my university journey. I had to upgrade a few classes before applying into kinesiology, and I upgraded my classes straight through the university. It's called continuing education. And then I was able to start my kinesiology degree shortly after. I have a permanent learning disability, but I was able to succeed with my academics with the help of the student accessibility services. I did a volunteer trip one summer through an organization at the university, and they're called Isaac. I had an amazing opportunity to travel to Mexico City and teach elementary students about the importance of physical activity and nutrition. I also took out student loans to help me pay for my tuition. So please feel free to ask me any questions about my experiences and any of the topics that I mentioned. I did bring in 2 other graduated students with me today. So I have Sarah and I have Renzo. And then we also have Kelsey, who Leanne and I took a class with last semester and is a very good friend of ours. So I'll have Kelsey introduce herself first, and then I'll have Sarah and Renzo after.
Hi guys, my name's Kelsey. Just like Hannah, I'm in my 2nd year of my Bachelor's of Kinesiology and Education. So it is a concurrent degree, which is 5 years long, and we get 2 degrees at the end of it. And I'm also on the Dinos fastball team. And yeah, I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, I'm Sarah. I just graduated. I finished up this spring my Bachelor of Science in Geography, a degree you probably don't hear a lot. When I was doing that, I was also the vice president of our geography undergraduates club. It's called the Palliser Club. Fun fact, the geography department's older than the University of Calgary because it used to be a part of the University of Alberta's satellite campus. So that's kind of cool fact. But I also spent some time in my degree working as a research assistant with one of the research labs in the department. That was a really great experience learning about how research and scientific research works. And I got to go for 3 weeks on the ship that's on your $50 bill. So the CCGS Amundsen is a Canadian icebreaker, and it's an Arctic research vessel. So I spent 3 weeks there collecting water samples and supporting an Arctic oceanography lab through the University of Calgary. I also did an independent study in my last semester at school, which is a really great experience if you want to dive deeper into research scientifically, where I worked pretty closely with one of my profs to develop my own research project, and I wrote a paper with it that may be even published in the next year or so. So yeah, I had a really cool ride. It took me 10 years to do one undergrad degree, but hey, it's not a race. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Kelsey and Sarah, and I'll have Renzo introduce himself as well.
Yeah, hey guys, how you doing? Hi everyone. I'm Renzo. I graduated university and everything in studies in 2018, 2019. I did it overseas in Australia. I was there for about 4 years and then did an extra year volunteering overseas, and it was really, really cool. And then I never thought I would do it, but I got to do the job that I love so much, and is actually to working at a church institution. So I was actually working with at-risk youth kids, and then actually working with teenagers and everything, because they're so fun to be around. I feel like it's a really cool conversation being there with them. And then, yeah, so now I get to be a youth pastor for working with teenagers and stuff. So literally all I do is like literally host once every 2 weeks within COVID guidelines. We do games, give away prizes, do a lot of Kahoots. If you guys know Kahoot, you can win prizes on that. And then, yeah, and everything on that's a very, very religious institution, but also very welcoming for all students. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So love it. It's really cool.
Thank you. And then one of our other co-hosts, Maeve, I'll have Maeve introduce herself and her guest.
Hey, hi everyone, I'm Maeve. I'm in my 1st year of animal bioscience at the University of Saskatchewan. A lot of you probably know me from TLP, and this is my 1st year, so I'm pretty new to all of it, but I know like how to apply and how to get scholarships if you have any questions about that. And I brought with me Emma, who can tell you more about what she does.
Hi, I'm Emma, and apparently have trouble unmuting myself. I am a first-year engineering student at U of S. I am also a Girl Guide leader for a Sparks and Brownie unit, and I do actually work during the summer, winter, and fall. So multitasking. If you guys have any questions about managing a bunch of things at once, I can help with that. I can also give some advice for first year engineering because it's intense, but there's ways to get through it.
I'll just jump in here. I see Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Hello. So we're just going around doing introductions. Maeve, Emma. So I'll actually, perfect timing. I'll introduce Nilly, and then Nilly can introduce Nicole. Does that sound good, Nilly? Okay. So, or you can also talk about yourself. But Nicole and Nilly are both nurses, and obviously they are registered nurses, I believe, both of them, and they will answer any of your questions related to nursing, so school, post-secondary. I think Nilly went to U of C, and yeah, I'll just let you talk about yourself. Go ahead.
Sure. My name is Nilly. Some of my campers now know my real name. My camp name is Pawpaw. I've been with Kids Cancer Care for quite a while now. I think 2013 or 2014. I don't remember the exact time, but I was introduced there through nursing school. It was my placement for my community nursing placement. And then I loved it so much, I stayed ever since. I work in pediatrics, but I actually work in clinical trials, which is kind of a very forgotten about field of nursing. Most people don't really know what it is nor kind of go into it. So I'm really passionate about it, and I'm happy to share and answer anything. But I also have worked in like public health, acute care, etc. So if anyone has questions about that, I also am happy to answer any questions about scholarships. I paid all of my tuition and scholarships in undergrad. I am doing the same for my grad school, so I'm more than happy to share any tips and tricks about that. Ultimately, it's just applying for them, and a lot of people underestimate their life experiences and don't apply, but there's lots out there, so feel free to apply. Other than that, yeah, I also enjoy volunteering and kind of multitasking a few things at the same time, so if anybody has questions about that, let me know. Nicole, you missed it. We did introduce you a little bit earlier because we weren't sure, so we wanted to make sure you were included. But this is Nicole. She's also very active with KCC. Amazing camp counselor. We love her. She's also a registered nurse, super active. She works at like one of our busiest hospitals at the Foothills. I'll let her introduce herself as well, but I'm a big fan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole. My camp name is Hopscotch. It's been a couple years since I've been able to be at camp, and of course this year I would have loved to be there, but with everything going on, it was a little bit of a unfortunate circumstances for sure. I work at Foothills, so I work on a cardiac unit and a pulmonary unit, so a lung unit. I graduated from Mount Royal University about 2 years ago. I did 2 years of upgrading to get into the program, and then the program itself is 4 years, so 6 years total. And I took some time off before I went back to school and decided nursing was my jam and it was something I wanted to do. So I know what it's like to have to figure out a couple jobs beforehand and then find your life career and just fall in love with something. So I'm here if you guys have any questions on what it's like to go back to school after trying different things, or anything like that, cardiac related, pulmonary related, I'm here for you.
Okay, I see some questions popping up in the chat from the Musa family. Did any of you take spring or summer courses to help you in school, and would you recommend it? From my experience, I know going into, it kind of depends what you're doing. So for me, applying to medical school, they do look to see if you're taking 5 and 5 for each semester to see if you can handle a heavy workload. So sometimes if you take spring classes, you'll end up having to take less classes or paying more to keep that 5. So it's not always necessary. Like you can still finish your degree in 4 years. I know that a lot of people that I know take 5 years to finish their degree, and then that's what they'll do. They'll do 4 classes in fall, 4 classes in winter, and then do 2 in spring. So it is definitely helpful. I have taken spring classes. One thing that I like about it is that you can really focus on 1 class or 2 classes, and it's kind of more condensed, and then you do only technically get 2 months of summer instead of 4, but again, it kind of just depends what you think you can do. Maybe in your first year, if you don't think you can handle 5 classes, because it is a lot, you could try taking 3 or 4, because if you take 3 classes, that's still considered a full-time student, so you're still eligible for all those full-time student awards and things. But has anybody else of our speakers here taken a spring class and want to chime in on that and how it's benefited you?
I know with Mount Royal, you can take summer and spring courses to be able to fast track and be able to finish the program sooner. So instead of it being 4 years, it'll be 3.5 years. So that's a huge benefit to some people, because then you'll graduate in December, and then some people feel it will give them a lead before everybody else that graduates later on in April, May, because then they can get those job postings earlier on.
I have not personally taken any spring or summer courses yet, but I think I would have benefited from it this year, because I mistakenly took 7 courses in my fall semester and I passed everything. It went okay, maybe. However, I think I would be in a much better place mentally and physically if I had spread some of those out into the spring and summer semesters, because I had 5 stress migraines in the fall. So if you feel like you have a bunch of courses to take, but you just don't feel comfortable taking that many in a semester, spring and summer could be a very good option for you.
I'm planning on taking a spring course this year. I haven't taken one before, but I'm doing it because just as an athlete, I have to manage my time. So hopefully, depending on COVID, our season runs from August to October. So I want to have 4 courses in the fall to manage my time better with my season and training. So I am taking one this spring.
I've definitely taken lots of spring and summer courses. When I transferred from SAIT to U of C, we were required to take 3 in the spring and 3 in the summer. So that was definitely a lot. Didn't really have a summer, but I'm glad that I did, because it is more condensed, and the teachers are a little more lenient, because they kind of, you're giving up your summer a little bit and to be there. It is I like it better a little bit, because you get to focus more on exactly like 1 or 2 courses instead of having to take on 5 or 6. So I would definitely recommend it. Don't exert yourself, have a little bit of a summer life as well, but it's a good thing to get ahead with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If you can, take those spring classes and alleviate your fall and winter semesters. Don't get those 5 stress migraines, and take care of yourself for sure. And also, if you're coming from high school, you're already used to having only 2 months of summer, so adding those 2 courses in won't even be that big of a difference, I think. Okay, let's see. How were you able to keep your grades up following the transition from high school to university? I'll touch a little bit on that, and I'm sure everyone else has a say in that as well, because it is quite different. My lowest GPA year is my first semester of my first year. And I think that was just, you're not really sure how to study, how to handle the transition of the classes, that you just go and you listen, and then you do everything at home. Like you do your projects at home, you do studying at home, where I found in high school, we were given class time to work on assignments, whereas in university, it's more, they give us the assignment and then it's up to us. If we don't do it, if we do it, we're not given time to work on that assignment. So I found that was a big difference from high school to university, because we only have 50-minute classes 3 days a week, whereas you used to have like an hour and a half long classes 5 days a week. So it's a lot more about independent learning. So I would say find a study buddy, you know, sit beside someone, say hi, what program are you in? Like I made my best friend by just sitting beside her, because I was like, oh, I've seen you in one of my other classes. Like, what's your name? So just make friends whenever we go back to in person. But I think it's if your grades aren't great in the first semester or first year, don't worry, because everyone is like that. It takes a little bit to get used to and get into the groove of things. I know I see Kristen shaking her head if you want to talk on it a bit.
One thing that I would like, the best advice I could give to someone going into their first year is like, don't be afraid to ask for help. I know it can be like really intimidating to like speak to a professor or a TA to ask them questions, or if you're like struggling, like don't be afraid to ask them for help. There's also a lot of resources on campus. So the Wellness Center, there's, if you do have a disability, you can go talk to the Student Accessibility Services and they can offer accommodations to help you. And there's something called an academic strategist. I didn't know about this until like my third year into university, but they basically help you figure out a plan or a strategy on how you can succeed academically. And they find out what your strengths are for studying and what you need to work on to help you improve. So just don't be afraid to ask for help.
I can touch on a few things. One thing like that Leanne said was the first semester can kind of be a little bit rough. And I remember everyone told me that when I first went in. They're like, the second semester will be better, and I didn't believe them at all. But then now that I'm in my second semester, I know like it actually does get better from the first semester. But then just to kind of keep up in the first semester, there's a few things like if some of your classes have labs, I know that labs are kind of hard, but if you work really hard on them, they actually help explain your concepts that you're doing in all of your classes. And also labs, if you're with like a group, you can get to know like the people in your group a lot, and they can help you with the other things in the class. And also for some first year classes that I had, they had like things called structured study sessions, where it's like an upper years student who would help you through different practice questions and explain things to you that you could go to and ask them questions. And that was really helpful. And also if your teachers have office hours, that's really helpful to go to, because even though like online it's kind of awkward sometimes because sometimes there's not many people there, but it actually helps a lot because they sometimes give you like hints, or they help you work through an assignment, or you can ask them directly like questions that you're having trouble with, instead of trying to search in the textbook or text like other people who might also not know what's going on. So that's kind of some things that I found helpful, like to keep above like all the work, but also try and keep my grades good, I guess.
I think I can answer quite a few of these questions in one fatal blow, if you will. So I saw your question, Jack, about staying on top of everything in first year engineering. Honestly, you just got to get stuff done. Like, you might think, oh, it's okay, these things aren't due for another 3 days, I've got time. Don't do that, because you might get another assignment within that period that's also due on the same day. And then you end up writing 5 lab reports in one day, and that does some damage to you. Another thing I found helpful is making lists, actually. So I'll make a big list of everything I have due that week, what time it's due, what day it's due, and in order. And then I'll rank them in level of importance. And of course, your end goal is to get them all done. But if you have to pick something worth 10% of your grade over something worth maybe 2% of your grade, pick the larger percentage first. The online labs actually, so I'm going to work this in, but labs right now are online for me, which seems odd because it's engineering. You would imagine it to be quite hands-on. But what they're currently doing is they'll either film the lab tech doing the lab, and then they'll zoom up on like the ruler so you can take your own measurements. They'll take a slow-mo video so you can see what height the ball traveled at its trajectory, so on and so forth. So it is a little tricky, but it's not too bad once you get used to it. It's quite similar to doing a normal lab, except you can go back and watch it again if you feel like you didn't get it. And I find that helpful. Otherwise, tips, just, they're optional lectures, go to them. They say optional, but you should consider that as mandatory. Like if you have to attend a doctor's appointment that morning, it's okay, miss it. But if you can, attend them, because the teacher will go over things that'll really help you. Like my physics professor, we had a midterm coming up, and the optional lecture section before my midterm, he went over the entirety of last year's midterm for us in front of us and let us ask him questions. And that was so helpful. 60% of the kids in my class failed that test, but I passed, and so did all the other kids who attended that lecture. So attend the optional lectures. Those are my tips. Don't procrastinate, make lists, attend lectures.
Yeah, I totally agree. Go to those optional lectures, see what they give you, all those little hints, tips, and tricks. They will. Okay. Brett, do you have anything to add on to engineering, staying on top of things? Or did Emma kind of?
Emma kind of hit it on the ball there. Had basically the same experience. Another thing I would suggest that I know Leanne kind of touched on earlier is that, you know, specific to engineering, when you actually are an engineer, you never work alone. You're always in a group. So it's nice to, you know, at the beginning of your education, to kind of find a couple friends and, you know, work together and like obviously don't cheat or anything like that, but it's nice to bounce off ideas of each other. And I can't count the many times where I'm explaining something I'm confused on to someone, and then halfway through my explanation I figure it out, and it's just from the fact of, you know, talking it out and hearing it outside of in your head. That definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, let's see. Brett, I don't know if you can talk on this one about Calgary Engineering. How do electives work? I don't know if your degree has electives and stuff, or if you know how the other engineering degree electives work.
Yep, mine definitely does, and it kind of depends on what major you're in, how many of each you had. I had 2 cost options, which are kind of just random options. So to be honest, I Googled the 10 easiest cost options at U of C. So I took Greek and Roman mythology, which is pretty fun. And I'm taking a history class right now. So, you know, those are kind of just to get your brain out of your specific field and, you know, kind of have a little fun with it. And I've also taken some science options or just general tech electives. On those ones, it's kind of nice. You get to pick where you want to go. They give you, you know, a list of 10, let's say, and you get to, okay, that one's the most interesting. I'm going to go into that one. So you kind of can direct where you want to learn more. And it's just, you know, instead of having everything planned out, you have to go from here to here to here. You get to kind of branch off and go, oh, I want to learn about that, and go on for there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine doing an engineering degree and 24 hours a day just thinking numbers. I would need to like think history or art or religion for an hour a day or something. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we have a question from Ricky about how would you apply to a sports team at U of C? Hannah, do you want to touch on that, and Kelsey?
Yeah, for sure. So all information about every sports team, there are quite a few offered for the dinos is at godinos.com. I'll link it in the chat after I'm done talking. Perfect. Thank you, Kelsey. So there's kind of two types of teams you can be a part of. There's varsity teams and there's club teams. I know me and Kelsey are both on the club team aspect of it. So our recruitment, I will let Kelsey talk about her team after. My recruitment was different. I had never rowed before, and I saw a flyer saying, hey, if anyone wants to try rowing, we're having tryouts, we're like teaching you how to row. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. So I went, made the team, but most teams hold a more formal style tryout, especially the varsity sports. And the difference between like a varsity sport and a club sport is that the varsity sports are more funded by the university. So they get like more practice time, more tournament time. Their fees are less than the average club team, I would say. But yeah, if you want to look at the actual tryout dates, and you can contact the coaches for any information, godinos.com. That's where all your information you can find.
So I play for the Dinos fastball team. So again, it is a club team. And I played at the high level of Alberta fastball. And I realized when I want to play past my club level and at the university level, I literally just went on like godinos.com or any other university. Every university typically has a athletics website, and I would just find the coach's email and just say, hey, I'm a prospective athlete. This is my position. I'm interested in your team. And I would just email, and they would come look at me in tournaments and just look at me and recruit me that way. And yeah, that's how I was recruited.
Awesome. Does anyone have any follow-up questions about that or anything?
I just wanted to add one quick thing to that.
Yeah, sure.
I love sports, and I always wish that I could have played more, but always look into your degree and what the requirements are. For example, if you like want to play sports, sometimes, of course, I'm sure Hannah and Kelsey can explain that better, but they're very busy playing, at a varsity level. So just double check with your degree to see what the allowances are. For example, like if you're in social work or nursing, and depending on the engineering program, sometimes you have to take certain courses or practicums at a very specific time. So always double check with the coach and make sure. I only mentioned that I'm not an athlete at all, though I love sports. I just wish I could play at that level. But I had a lot of classmates in nursing who unfortunately had to either take a year off one or the other, just so that they could kind of maintain both. So just double check with your degree, because I would hate for you to like start this really exciting journey and then have to start another exciting journey and have to pick one. So just double check everything all the time. That's all. I just want to add that little tidbit.
That's actually a really good point to add, because I know we have practices in the evenings, and sometimes classes are specifically scheduled for that time. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You can't change it. So my coach is pretty lenient and understands, like if you have a lab, you have a lab. You can't come to practice, or you have to come late. And I know maybe Hannah can add to this, but I think her practices are early in the morning, so she has to work her schedule around that too.
Right. So my practices are 6 a.m. every morning. I live in the far southeast, which is about 45 minutes away from campus. So I wake up at 4:30 to go to practice, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for my team. So you kind of have to adjust based on that. Weekends get taken up often. Sometimes you have to miss a couple days based on a tournament or games. So you have to make sure you're talking about to your prof and you're communicating like, hey, most profs are understanding, especially in kinesiology, for me anyways. So just really taking your schedule into account. I know I try to make my classes 9 a.m. or later, because I know my practice ends right at 8 and I don't want to be running to the change room and then running to class. So yeah, scheduling is really important. So definitely take that into account before. You can always ask the coach, what time do you usually have practices? And I'm sure they'd be happy to let you know.
Something I just want to throw in real quick that isn't necessarily related to that, but is related to scheduling. When you're making your schedule and selecting your courses, make sure that there aren't like small little time gaps between classes. Like it's good for there to be 10 minutes between classes, but if you have like half hour here, 45 here. That's not good because you can't really study or do an assignment in that time, but you can't go back to your apartment and the lecture isn't starting. So make sure that it's either back to back or you have like a solid gap where you could get some actual work done. That's a mistake I made this semester. Like I have so many half-hour breaks and it's awkward to fill them. So if you can book your schedule so it's solid and then open, I find that works best. So I just
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point because I know sometimes I'll have half an hour here and half an hour here, 20 minutes here, and then it all adds up to like an hour and a half, but I got nothing done in that hour and a half because didn't want to get into my assignment. So that's a good point. Okay, let's keep going on these questions. I'm so glad you guys keep asking them. Okay. Okay, yeah, going back to how labs are being done when students are at home a little bit, I can touch on that too. So I've done chemistry labs online because when COVID started, I was in a chemistry course and I'm in an organic chemistry course right now. So kind of what was mentioned before is that they videotape the experiment and you make observations on it and then you write a lab report based on that. That's how it's been, I think, across the board in most of it. And in kinesiology, I know for one of my classes, a sports medicine class, they give us this sheet and it's try all these sport medicine exercises and watch these videos. So it's not as hands-on learning and it kind of sucks, but hopefully we'll be back soon to be able to do that kind of stuff in person. Let's see.
I can talk about labs a little bit.
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
I've had like some chemistry labs that are kind of like what Leanne was saying, kind of just watching videos, but I've also had a bio lab that's been pretty involved where they put you in a group with like 7 different people, I think, and inside your group is someone, like they make sure there's someone who lives near the campus, and that person every week has to go pick up a kit, and you do like different experiments, like we did like pulse experiments and stuff like that. And so you have to download like a program that can analyze like the data, and you have to make like schedule like meetings with your group to go over everything and write lab reports. And so that one's been a pretty big lab, but it's also been pretty cool because it's still kind of it's kind of like you're still there, like you're still doing something a little bit. So not all labs are just videos, but a lot of my other labs, you also have like a meeting every week with a TA, and they help you through practice questions, or they do the lab, or they explain the lab kind of, or show you how to do how to analyze it, or how to make like the Excel graph or something like that. So there's been like a lot of different ways that my classes are doing labs, but yeah, it's not all just on papers. So I thought I'd throw that in there.
That's so cool. I wish my labs were in person. Although I did have a group project and we were able to socially distance film ourselves kicking a soccer ball. So that was fun. Okay, how late will we hear if we get accepted from university? I think they have to let you, it's been a while, but people can touch on this too. I believe it's by the end of May, they have sometime in May, they have to let you know. And then by a certain date, you can either accept it or say, no, I'm going to a different university. But I think it's around like the April, May time, if anyone else wants to touch on that. I know Maeve, I guess you're the most recent to being accepted, if you remember how long it took or when it was.
I did all early admission, so I knew it all in like October. So
okay, so that is an option too, though. Yeah.
I actually applied for normal admission last year, and I actually heard back mid-May, late May and early June actually, but they all wanted to hear back by like June 30th, I think was the day. But then if you do late, it depends when you apply, right? Because there's different response dates for different application waves, I suppose. But I know at U of S you could apply as late as August 20th. And I'm assuming then you would hear like a day before school started. But don't do that. Just don't apply in the spring. All right, anyway, you should hear back by June typically, but it can be as late as August.
Yes. Oh, and I also just saw that there's some answers in the chat about that. Another thing I guess I can talk on too, we'll talk a bit on it, anybody that wants to chime in, but for student loans as well, because that's definitely a big question on a lot of people's minds. For me personally, when I first started university, my parents were telling me, you should get student loans, even though we do have an RESP to help you for university. And I was like, no, I don't want to be in any debt by the time I finish my degree, which is understandable, but also for Alberta and Canada, I believe, if you get certain grades and good grades, you can get grants. So basically they give you the loan and you don't have to pay it back. So this year I got $6,000 in a grant. So, and if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have had that money. So in that sense, it's something that I didn't know about. And I'm pretty sure that you don't have to start paying interest until a certain number of years after you've graduated, gotten a job, and you're making a certain amount of salary. So it's not like as soon as you graduate, they're like, all right, fork up that $60,000 that you borrowed from us, or you're out on the streets. So it's not that bad if anyone wants to touch on that. But yeah, Alexander Rutherford too, coming out of high school. I don't know if anyone else is doing student loans. Okay, Nilly, I see your hand up.
Super passionate about scholarships, and I am leaving in 4 minutes. So I was hoping I could quickly touch on that. So there's lots of websites you can apply for scholarships through. There's Scholarships Canada. I'll be quite frank, they do spam you with quite a few emails. So if you're going to do that, make a second email and use that for your scholarship application purposes. The best one though is you can do it through your, oh, there you go. There's more in the link, links in the chat box. But what I did was I went to U of C, for example. I used their website, and then you can click the external section and it'll list a lot of scholarships that other universities, including U of C, is eligible for. So you could use the U of C website and go on the scholarships page, but just click external if you're not going to U of C. I'm only giving that as an example because I find their website quite user-friendly. Of course, depending on your university, I'm sure they all have that. There's also just through the Government of Alberta. If you just search Government of Alberta scholarships, there's a huge list as well. My biggest tip though for any scholarship ever is literally open up a Word document, and almost every scholarship application will ask you why you want the scholarship, your life experiences, or what you've overcome. It's really hard to be vulnerable, but sometimes you have to remember that those things that you've gone through are significant and they're very important, and it is a huge feat that you've done so well in school while having to deal with so much adversity. So I know it's tough to be vulnerable, but it's really important that you touch on that because you deserve that recognition for all you've gone through. So really just write down everything you've been involved in, like teen leadership program, any volunteer activities, even if it's something that you think is small, like being the eldest sibling in a household where you've had to take care of your siblings. You can add all of that in, anything that's been significant to you, how many hours a week you've done it for, if it's applicable. And then underneath that paragraph, write your a little bit about your life story, and then write a little bit about what your career interests are or why you want scholarships. And I promise you, it's the perfect document for every scholarship application in the future. And all you have to do is copy and paste your experiences and just tweak it a little bit to what the scholarship's looking for. If it's looking for life adversity, perfect, you have it, delete everything else. If it's looking for sports, perfect, you have a couple of examples of sports and you can add it in there. So just make that document now, literally add your resume to it, what have you, and just use it, because that way if a scholarship comes up literally last minute, you're ready. And always remember a few references who are willing to write you one and ask them, can I use this in the future? Because then that way, if there is a last minute scholarship application, you have their consent to share that reference. So that's my little tidbit on scholarship. With that, I will bid adieu in a bit, but Nikki has my personal email and everything. Email me with any questions you have, but I'll just quietly sneak out in a few minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, scholarships is definitely something that I've applied to, but not as many as I definitely should. I know when I was going into university, my parents told me just apply to anything and everything because nobody does, and you're almost guaranteed to get them.
I legit got an engineering one once. I got an email and it was like $500, so no one applied for it. And they went down the list of STEM and somehow ended up in nursing. Like they literally had nobody apply from engineering, computer science, geophysics, geography, whatever, all the sciencey things. Somehow we came down to nursing and they're like, do you want a $500 scholarship? And I was like, yeah, I want $500. So literally apply. Even if you don't qualify, the worst you're going to hear is a no.
Yeah, that's
Do
true. That's such a good point. Okay, anyone else want to talk on finances or anything like that before I'll move on to a new topic? Oh, Nicole, yeah.
So for me, like I said, I went to school after 8 years, so I didn't have any resources or money set away for me. So I did student loans, and I actually didn't live at home. So I had to like plan out what my living expenses would be, my food, my school, my textbooks, like everything. Like I had, like every month I allotted a certain amount of money that could go to like food, coffees, like if it was Christmas time, like I was like I planned everything out just because like I didn't want to graduate and be in so much debt that like it would crush me. Like I wanted to be able to live and enjoy my career. So I think student loans are definitely like realistic and you can pay them off in like a timely manner. There's great plans and everything like that that they have set up for you depending on how much you wait. There is like a year of forgiveness. So there's no interest on your student loans for both federal and provincial loans. And then depending on your plan and how much your income is, and if you can't get a job right away, they're really accommodating in that sense of being able to work with you for like a payment plan. So that's good as well. For me, I actually had accommodations. So I have a learning disability. If it gets approved, you can go through accommodations, and I actually got grants and scholarships for school supplies and stuff like that within that. So that's a great opportunity if you guys need to take advantage of that. Accommodations also helps with exams. I got extended time. I sat in like a cubicle away from the rest of everybody else. I had like if a test went over like I think it was like past 7 o'clock or something like that, like 7 p.m. at night, I could write earlier so I could be finished by the time the accommodations room was closed. So that was nice when everybody else was still writing an exam and like burnt out because it was super late. I was finished. So if you guys qualify for that, I definitely take advantage because I also got people to help me with like my papers, anything I needed, really, that was there for me. So if you guys can get that, that's also great. What else? Something else came up and I wanted to touch on it. And there was just so much talking that I can't remember. I should have made notes. Maybe I'll jump back in if I remember it.
Yeah, of course, no problem. Yeah, thanks for touching on that. Definitely if you're not living at home or you go to school somewhere else where you're not with your parents, budgeting for groceries and, coffees and eating out because, you do want to sometimes. So it's just making sure you have that money for that. Because I know me, sometimes that's a little bit of a struggle. I'll spend $30 at A&W and then I could have bought a lot of groceries for $30. So it's kind of weighing the pros and cons of how you use your money for sure. Does anyone else want to touch on that?
I was just going to throw in, if you're living in res, it can be slightly different because a lot of res rooms, they automatically give you a meal plan with that. So sometimes it's like a point system, like a sandwich is worth like 3 points, juice is worth 1, and you have so many points per month, and you eat like that. Sometimes it's like a credit card, like you actually just charge dollar amounts, but then a certain amount is covered for free under your res plan. So it's just a good thing to keep in mind, like look through it, see how much you actually have, because sometimes it's not a fully comprehensive meal plan, sometimes it is. So it's a good thing to keep in mind and to look into.
Yes, that's so true for anyone that plans to stay on res or anything. I know some places require you to have a meal plan for the first year, and I think that's kind of bogus in my opinion, but university's got to make money somehow, I guess. Okay, anyone else want to touch on any finances or any questions?
I just want to talk about a little bit. Nicole mentioned the disability grants. On top of the disability grants, if you are eligible, you can apply for something called assistive technology grants. And basically you can apply for money to get any devices that help you with your studies. So I was able to apply for some grants towards an iPad, an Apple Pencil, a keyboard, and even a case to protect my device. And they basically pretty much paid for all of that. There is a certain amount that you can apply for, but depending on what you're planning on getting, they'll pretty much cover all of it. So that's something I thought that was really important to mention, because especially with the transition to online school, like it helped a lot. So
yeah, I feel like in university, one of the biggest things is we don't know about these things. We don't know that there's accessibility grants. We don't know that there's all of these things going on. And, make sure you ask around, say, well, what can I get? What can I squeeze out of you?
On that topic too, I just wanted to chime in really quick, because being a post-secondary student gives you a ton of benefits outside of the school institution. So a lot of times, like with your banks, you can get like really good accounts for no fees or for really low fees if you're a post-secondary student. There's definitely like websites that will give student discounts or even free student trials if you sign up with your university email. So always keep an eye out for those things. Like I miss getting free banking, which sounds so silly, but $13 a month to pay for the same account that I got for free when I was a student adds up. So for those 4 years or 5 years or however long it takes you, there's a ton of stuff that you can get just by having that university email address that you can apply for. So like I know Squarespace is one. I went to build a website a couple of years ago. You can get a free trial and a discounted rate if you sign up with your student email address. So also keep an eye out for stuff like that, because it feels silly in the moment, but it can definitely help save a lot while you're in school, because it's one of those things where when you're a student, that is something that's really front of mind, and being able to keep an eye out for stuff like that helps to pinch those pennies in a bit. So when you do spend that $30 on A&W, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of places have those student discounts. You just make sure you have your student ID. They'll say, oh, instead of $15, it's $10 for students and stuff like that, which is super awesome and super helpful.
Yeah, it's called the SPC, right? Student price code.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just have that and show your card and you get these discounts. And
You get a free extra at Jugo Juice.
yes,
Yeah.
Bailey knows. Okay, awesome. Anyone else want to say anything? If not, I think maybe we'll touch on scheduling and planning and how we kind of do that and manage our time, unless we have any specific questions. Okay. So when I started university, I would plan, but I wouldn't really use an agenda. I would just kind of think of things. But then it got to a point where if I wasn't writing it down, I would forget. And that is the one thing that is the difference between high school and university as well, is that in high school, you had your teachers reminding you. And then all of a sudden in university, I get a D12 notification and it's like, your 10-page essay is due in 24 hours in the Dropbox. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot about it. So it's making sure you have a planner, whether that's using a physical one that you can write in, which I really like to do. And I use Google Calendar, and then it's synced to my phone. So then I get notifications. And I also did this one workshop where we learned about, scheduling in your showers, scheduling in when you're going to eat, scheduling in when you're going to exercise. Because as a student, I find that at times I forget to do it. I wake up, I remember I need to study, and then it's 9 o'clock and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even had breakfast yet, or it's 11 p.m. and I haven't showered in 2 days because it's been so stressful. So little things that you don't think you need to schedule in is definitely something that I learned that you should. So every day I get a notification at 9 p.m. and it's like, reminder, shower. I'm like, you're right, I need to stop studying. So I don't know if anyone else has any tips and tricks for staying
Wait, so
scheduled. Yeah.
is that like your wind down time? Like in between studying? Like you just hop into the shower and just like, oh, this is fun. And then you just go back to
Sometimes.
studying after?
Yeah, usually I'll try and study at nighttime. I'll have like from 7 p.m. I'll try and work out or go for a run, do some yoga, just get away from the computer and get away from school because it's so hard because my school's in my house now. But yeah, sometimes it'll be 2 in the afternoon and I just don't want to do anything. So I'll just go and take a bath or take a shower. So, wash off all that stress. So definitely, yeah, schedule those things in. Yes, Renzo?
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think I think I think you touched on it. It's like pacing yourself and kind of like adding in the stuff that happens, because you never know. Like you might end up, people have like type of things where it's like you don't want to, you should be doing school, but you're cleaning the entire house. And like, how the heck did I do this? Like, why did I get into this? It's like, I did not schedule this. This is not on my schedule. I think one thing that I learned a lot is when I was overseas, I had to like work a job. I had to do biblical studies. I had to learn everything at school. I had to be part of lectures. I had to read books, and I couldn't read for fun anymore. Like that sucked. The fact that I couldn't read for fun, that completely sucked. So I think one of my best friends told me this, and I've been doing this for 4 years in a row, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of like, it's called the rock, pebble, and sand like type of thing. It's called the rock, pebble, and sand schedule. And what that looks like is it's your rocks, like the big rocks. What are the things that you can actually not move that's non-negotiable? And then that would be like studying. That would be going to lectures, like write down like what are your non-negotiables, right? And then the pebbles, the things that you can actually move around. It's like, okay, these are non-negotiables, but I can actually move this around throughout my schedule. Oh, I was gonna, I don't know, hop on Twitch or play some video games with my friends and stuff while I should be studying. And I was like, I really need to be finding my friends. So I'll study on Monday, but then I'll play on Friday. So those are your pebbles. And then the sand, the little tiny sands, like that's something that you can like be like, I do not need this in my schedule. I can do this way later on, stuff that you can move. So make sure that you schedule your non-negotiables and your negotiables. Be like, should I be doing this right now? Nah, this is definitely a rock thing. I definitely have to get this done now. And then, yeah, so that's something that worked for me that really, really helped me out. Like, yeah, it's really good. Like even work, that has to be a rock. People put work as a non-negotiable. It's like, I can call in sick now. I don't have to go. But your mental health, your downtime, your showering, everything, like that has to be a rock. So once you start putting in like that, you can like kind of like sort out like, this is what's important to me. This is what's somewhat important. And then you just figure it out in there, if that makes sense.
I like your metaphors.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's good. It helps. That's the only way that I can figure things out, man.
Wow, I've never thought of it like that. And that's such a good way to think of it. And I wish I would have known that at the beginning of university, what are your non-negotiables? I'm like, oh, well, I'm watching Netflix right now when I scheduled studying time. I think this could be sand. I think
Yeah.
I don't need to be doing this right now.
It's like, because like, I think the reason behind it all is like, when life and situation happens, that's the water, right? Like the ocean, like the rocks are not going to move, but the pebbles might, and then the sand completely will. So when situations happen and you get hit with like things that happen in life, you're like, what are going to be my non-negotiables? Because I can't stop studying if something happens in my family. Obviously, if it's something big, you can't put everything to a stop. But when things start happening, like what are my non-negotiables? What are my things that I need to put in place when the water comes through? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree. Oh, Sarah, I see you unmuted. You can go ahead and.
Yeah, I was just gonna add in there too. It took me a little bit, like a few semesters, to figure out how I liked my school schedule to look. But try different things out for your first couple of semesters. Some programs have less flexibility with when your classes can be throughout the week, throughout the day. Definitely sports or other extracurriculars and work, things like that can also add complications. But I found for myself, I didn't live on campus, so I did have to commute for over an hour to get up there. So I would try to reduce my days on campus so that I didn't spend a lot of time, extra time traveling back and forth, because I didn't feel like my travel time could be really productive. But in those times, I did one semester where I had 4 courses back to back with a 10-minute break in between for 2 days a week. I thought that was going to be great because then everything's out of the way. My lectures are all done. I won't do anything else on those days, but I found I needed like an hour. So give yourself those times on campus where you have an hour where you can maybe grab food. If you feel productive that day, you can sit down in the library or in a club room and study, but give yourself a few breaks in your day. I know Emma also touched on it of like not having those really short ones too. Give yourself that full hour, like that full class block if you can. And it doesn't have to be at lunchtime. I did my favorite one was after my first class, because some days I'd go do my first lecture, I'd feel super productive, so I could study for the whole hour afterwards. Some days I would go into my club office and take a nap on the couch because I just needed a break to get back into my day. But give yourself those times and figure out if that works for you. Some people love to stay on campus all day, every day. So schedule your day like that. Give yourself the time. Some people don't. Some people want to get all your lectures out of the way. So do that for you, because that's the great thing about doing post-secondary education is you're a lot more in control than in high school. So figure out what you like. Just be careful to maybe not schedule all of your breaks with your one best friend, and you're never productive in those times either. Give yourself some alone time too, because that's when you're going to be more productive.
It goes back to the first semester and how it's worse than the other semesters.
Yeah, because your first semester, you don't know a lot, and it's hard to know what you need, because as much as we can also give you so many tips and tricks, what worked for us, what worked for our friends, at the end of the day, you're the only one who's going to be able to figure out what you like and how you can be most productive. That was like my biggest struggle, was figuring out what does productivity look like for me, and it was different from my friends, so it took a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And just to touch on that a bit, is figure out if you're a morning learner, an afternoon learner, or an evening learner. Because I find, for me personally, I was like, I'm gonna sleep in, start my classes at 11, and that was not working for me, because by 2:30, 3 o'clock, I hit a wall. My brain was dead. I needed to not be doing anything. So then I learned that I needed to, get up earlier, because that's when my brain started working. Balin, you're funny. And yeah, like Sarah said, find what works for you. Because I know some of my friends, they work best at like 8 to 11 p.m. And if that's what works for you and you go to bed at midnight, like that's totally fine. Make sure you get that 8 hours of sleep until 8, 9, maybe 10, whatever you need. And if you're more productive at night, study at night. Renzo?
Yeah, as my last thing, I was just going to chime in before if there's another question, but also for those who are entering in post-secondary, I think will be really good. And I guess I'm talking to Balin and everyone else too, that when you go into school and stuff, Lauren mentioned it very early on, like having a study buddy is very, very good, because when you're trying to get school done, I know you get in your own mindset of doing it, but sometimes and I think this might be a little bit, I don't say extreme. I think like not people think about this. I had to, because I feel like I had to put in check, but having like an accountability of being like, hey bro, like, have you done your homework? Like, hey, have you done this? Have you done this assignment? Like, what'd you get in this, right? And then something you remember, and you're like, oh shoot, I haven't done that. So it's kind of good to have like a friend, having like a person in your corner, like kind of like help each other out with schooling. I know that's very, very, very helpful. So yeah, so always don't be afraid to make friends. Don't be afraid to even have people in your class, even emailing them and I mean like, hey, what'd you think of this? What'd you think of that? I'm kind of stuck here and stuff, which goes back to what Kristen was saying about asking for help with academic strategists, but also friends too. Be like, what'd you do here? What'd you do there? Having good friends, even having like a good group of stuff, like a study group is very, very helpful. I feel like that what got me through, because I was a procrastinator in the group. Like everyone got their stuff done ahead and I was a procrastinator, but they never let me behind. It's like, hey, you got to get this done. Like, because if you're not, it's not going to work out. So you got to get this done. So it's good to have people in your corner to kind of push you through that. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. And kind of going to Nikki's question, asking about clubs and stuff. Clubs is a great way to meet people with the same interests, meet people that are, to bring you up, to have that sense of community on campus. Because I find when you first go to university, for me, none of my friends went to U of C. I was very alone and I was like, I need I need people to talk to. So, you know, go to clubs week, research, see what's going on, make those friends. And varsity sports as well is such a great way. And even in classes, like me, Kelsey, and Kristen, we did not know each other before we were put into a group in a class, and we became like best friends. We Snapchat every day. So it's just little things, you know. Sometimes you won't click with your group members that you're stuck with, but take advantage of that, get to know people, find the people that really motivate you, that bring you up, that help you study and remind you to take those mental health breaks. And yeah, Kelsey?
Sorry, I just want to add to that. You covered like it so well, but in my first year, I had to take this one class and I basically knew nobody. And I just looked beside me and said, and introduced myself to the person next to me. And now she's like one of my best friends. So when you're in your classes first year, do not be afraid to say hi, because that could be the start of a lifelong friendship.
If we're able to get back into classes.
So I've heard that BC has a lot of their universities going back. I'm not so sure about Alberta. We've gotten a few emails from U of C president saying we're working on it, but I think we won't be back till next January, but we'll see. We'll see. It would be nice. Yeah, and for oh yeah, Maeve, go.
I was just gonna say, like, online, it is kind of hard to make friends, but like you can still make friends. Like in my lab, I had a group where we had a pretty big lab together, and so if you're working together like every day and you're being like helping each other out, it can kind of help you make friends too. And so that was in the first semester, and we still have a lot of classes together too, because we're in the same program, and so we can help each other with like classes. And also, like, sometimes we'll just be like, oh, do you guys want to have like a I guess a Zoom meeting like on Wednesday and just like catch up, just to talk, because we don't talk to anyone usually. So yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because yeah, me, Kelsey, and Kristen, we haven't even met each other in person. It's all been online.
I was just gonna throw in, sometimes classes will have like a Discord server or something like that. It might seem dumb to join those, but do it, because even if you don't get to know every single person in that server, for instance, the one I'm in, it's every first year engineer at U of S, and it's 650 kids. But even if you don't get to know everyone personally, it makes it feel more like you're in person and less like you're isolated at home. You know, just even seeing people post memes to the meme channel, it makes you feel better. And it's those things that kind of get you through the day. So I recommend joining stuff like that.
Yeah, that's such a good point, especially if learning continues online when you guys get into university. Join those silly group chats and talk to people, put your camera on during Zoom lectures, get to know people, and it's really what you put into it is what you get out of it. If you're not going to interact in class, or you're not going to interact with your group members, or you're not going to join those Discord channels, then you will feel isolated. So it is a little bit of effort to, you know, get to know people, but hopefully we'll be online. It'll be a little easier to just look to the person next to you and say, do you know what's going on either? So we'll see though. Yeah. Any other questions or anything? We got about 9 minutes left, or we can wrap up early, or any dire need. I can talk a little bit. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna chime in on the clubs part, because
Yes, please.
When I started at U of C, like I was not going there. I was like, no, I'm not gonna join any clubs, like nerds, whatever. And then now here I am, a vice president of an undergraduate students club. And what I loved about it was I saw this club because it was outside of where like 50% of my courses, the classroom is right across the hallway from it. So I just saw the sign outside every day. I was like, that's weird. There's a club there. They have a couch. A couch would be good. When you look and walk around campus, or even like, I believe right now they're setting up a way to do clubs like more online, with Clubs Week happening online as well. And it doesn't just have to be about something that you're super passionate about. It could be something that you're like, I wonder what that is. Or my favorite part about my club was it was just people that were majoring in the same program. And that's a great way to meet other people as well. But my favorite part of being a part of a club at the university was getting to have a space that I could just go and you could sit down, or have that space kind of away from the university that you could kind of know was going to be there. So don't be afraid to just walk in if a club room has that door open. A ton of them leave the doors open for a reason, because recruitment is always happening. So it's never something that you're going to be interrupting necessarily. Don't be afraid to ask questions about clubs, see what they're up to. Usually there's a little bit of dues, like I know our club was about $15 for the year, but then you get that SU club's card membership, and that gives you a little bit of benefits around the campus. So that was really nice as well, to like be able to join that club and meet some new people and see what that's about. So don't be afraid to ask those questions, because clubs are always looking for more people to join them too.
Yeah, totally. And there's sometimes clubs that you wouldn't even expect. For instance, at University of Saskatchewan, there's actually a club for members of the LGBTQ+. And pardon my French, but it's called the Stitch and Bitch. And you come, you knit or crochet, and you just rant about everything that's angering you at the time. And I don't know, it's something you wouldn't expect in a club, but it exists, and they meet weekly. So it's just, there are cool things that you wouldn't even imagine. Look at the clubs, poke around. You could find something that's a really good fit for you.
Yeah, and at U of C, I remember I was walking around the Clubs Week, and there's like anime clubs. I remember I saw this one club, they just get together in one of the library rooms, and they hook their gaming stations up to the TVs, and they have like Super Smash Bros tournaments just in the library. And I'm like, this is so cool. But literally anything and everything. There's like, and then there's also lots of like cultural ones too. There'll be like the Muslim Student Society and the Jewish Student Society, like so many different things. Like, you think of it, there's a club, and if it's not a club, you can make your own club. Whatever you want to do. It's really endless. Okay, do you have any other questions or anything? Or does everybody want to just log off, have some popcorn, go to bed, enjoy their Thursday winter wonderland?
Wait, have you guys watched Falcon and Winter Soldier yet?
Yes, I have. The first
Yeah,
episode.
it's so good.
It's lit. I'm waiting till
hate
1
the-
a.m. for the next episode. I'm waiting till 1 a.m. for the next episode, bro.
Why?
That's exactly
Just
what I'm
wait for
doing.
the morning.
Yeah, I'm
Nah,
not.
bro, I can't wait like that. I can't wait like that. Because then the spoilers, and then everything on Instagram, and then I'm like, I don't want to watch it anymore. I don't want
But
to
it's
watch
just
that.
7 hours. Or like, if you wake
I
up at
can't
like
wait,
8.
bro. I can't.
What's
You should go
8?
to bed. I'm gonna stay up till 1, bro.
Okay.
Maeve says it's a rock for Renzo.
I like that's right. That's my rock.
No, it's a
right there. It should
boulder.
not-
It's a boulder.
It shouldn't be a rock. It should be it's a gigantic, it's it's a mountain. That's what it is.
So true. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but at the ending, I won't spoil it, but you know what happens. I was just heartbroken, and then, you know, seeing his face looking at that on TV, I was like,
Even the start is just, it's like it
That's
went
not-
straight
it's not
into
my
it.
cat.
I know it's not my Cap.
That's Cap. That's not my cat. I want to watch it. I gotta start WandaVision first, though.
Okay.
Oh
I
yeah, I
haven't
gotta
seen that
power
yet.
that through.
My
It's good.
advice
Yeah, you'd like
for
it.
WandaVision, the first 3 episodes are kind of slow. You're like,
No,
what the heck is going on?
wasn't it 2? And then the third one got interesting.
The third one does get a little interesting, but then the fourth is definitely when
Yeah.
So stick it out.
Yeah.
And also, you know, these episodes are great for university because you only have to watch them once a week, and then it doesn't cut into your time too much. You're not binge watching it unless you wait for it all to come out.
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
It's
like it when we went into quarantine, I binge watched The Simpsons, all 30 seasons.
What?
That's like 600 episodes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What show is
It's
this?
fun. The Simpsons on Disney Plus.
Yes, that's a lot. That was me with Grey's Anatomy. I powered that through 16 seasons. I couldn't do it. Not anymore. Oh,
New
so
episode
bad.
tonight.
Okay, I haven't seen the new episodes on TV yet. Only the Netflix ones. So.
Me neither. So I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna wait till the season's out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, but
I'm starting to watch Agents of Shield.
Oh yeah, no, Agents of Shield. Yeah, I'm on season 1. Anyways, yes, awesome
Hey,
guys.
You guys need to write all those into the chat box so we know what to watch, and we will wrap this up. We have 3 minutes, so I want to thank you all. So Leanne for taking the lead, and then Kristen and Maeve, thank you guys so much. I know we had a couple Zoom calls planning this. Thank you to all the speakers as well for answering all those questions. I absolutely love Renzo's rock, pebble, sand analogy. That's great, and we will keep that. And I think you need to come and speak to the team leaders at another time. And then also, Leanne, thank you for saying, you know, when you enter into post-secondary, surround yourself with people who bring you up. I think that's one of the biggest things to take away. This past year has been rough for a lot of people, and so that is a good suggestion, and I will suggest it as well. Like, hang out with those good people. Get on Discord. I've heard this like 5 times already in the past couple months, so I think I'm gonna do this. And then join clubs, and yeah, make those friends. And I really do hope that this is in person for you, because it's a really cool experience to walk around campus. Maeve, I can't wait for you to be in person at university. It is pretty wild, and to live on campus too is a whole other world. And so I hope you guys get that experience. If you have any questions at all, you feel free to put them in the chat box in the next minute, or email myself. You all have my email address, and we'll direct your question to somebody who can answer it if I can't answer it. Anything else to add, Leanne? Bailey, unmute, mute.
This is so eye-opening. Yeah, I learned a lot.
That's amazing.
Thanks to everyone that spoke, and yeah, it was really fun.
That's great. Thank you guys.